Hey guys, so today I want to talk about the two biggest books of the month of May. I just finished both of them and I have very mixed opinions on them. Mostly good, but I want to kind of break them down for you and let you know which ones you should read or shouldn't read. So, Shield of Sparrows and Silver Elite. They both came out the same day. They also both have the same character names, Cross and Wolf, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if there's a reasoning behind that. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but I'm not a believer in coincidences, so there has to be something there. Maybe that's just me, but I find that a little weird that not just one character, but two characters have the same name. But anyway, I'm going to kind of give you a little overview on each one and whether I think you should read it. So, Shield of Sparrows. This book is much more popular, I would say, overall, and more highly accepted than Silver Elite. Shield of Sparrows follows a girl named Odessa who lives in a land of monsters, and in this land, there is someone called the Sparrow. We don't really totally know what the Sparrow does, but she has the goal of essentially uniting the kingdom. Without giving too much away, Odessa ends up going essentially on this journey to help fight monsters. I'm going to leave it at that before I give anything away. So, should you read this book? Yes, if you like your typical fantasy book. It didn't feel overly different than most fantasy books, but the introduction of the monsters was fantastic. I know a lot of books have those monsters, but these really played into the plot of the story and they weren't just thrown in. That was fantastic and I loved that part. It was probably my favorite. Yes, also, if you love a fantastic plot twist, there were 3 or 4 plot twists throughout that were all really good, but the last 2 pages, I kid you not, were fantastic. I gave this a 4.5 star. Up until the last 2 pages, 4 star. The last 2 pages knocked it up another half star. It was so good. The ending, I was not expecting at all, and I think this is going to really set up the second book. Do not read this if you don't want your typical fantasy book because it is pretty similar. It also is kind of slow. The first 3/4 were pretty slow. I struggled to get through it. I enjoyed it, but it still kind of just felt like it was like, when is this going to pick up? But then the last 100 pages were fantastic. So if you were willing to sit through 400 pages of fine to get to that last 100 pages, fantastic, go ahead and read it. This book is overall very highly loved, so it's definitely one to check out. It's supposed to be a trilogy, so definitely a lot more to come, and based on the last 2 pages, there is a lot that she can do with this plot. So I'm really curious to see what's going to come out of that. Fantastic book. And Devney Perry, I think it's her first fantasy book. I hope she writes more fantasy after this book. Then we have Silver Elite. Silver Elite is not as highly acclaimed. A lot of people love it, and a lot of people hate it. I personally loved it. I did 4-star it, so technically it is a lower star rating than Shield of Sparrows. However, I enjoyed them both the same. The only thing that brought up Shield of Sparrows was the ending. It was a 4-star. Silver Elite follows Ren Darlington, and Ren Darlington is living in a dystopian society where there are people who are called mods who have psychic powers, and these people are getting by the government. The government wants nothing to do with them. They think they're a threat, so they are getting rid of them. Ren ends up finding herself in a military school, and this school is hunting mods. So she has to hide her powers, and it is fantastic. What I don't like about this book, it is marketed as Hunger Games for adults, and that is not true. It is very much adult, and it is much more adult than Shield of Sparrows. However, there's no Hunger Games in this. It takes place in a dystopian setting, but that is the only dystopian about it. So I think that it is getting the controversy because it is not being labeled the way it should be. Should you read this book? Yes, if you like dystopian. Yes, if you like powers. Yes, if you like Powerless, the book by Lauren Roberts, because it is basically a reverse Powerless. No, if you were thinking you were going to go into it reading Hunger Games, because that is not what this is. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed dystopian. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It is not Hunger Games, and it will never be Hunger Games. That's not what the plot is. But it was great. I see why people would not be happy with this book because of the way they're marketing it. Also, this author, they believe, is a pen name and possibly of someone very famous. So there's some controversy around that too, of like, who is this? Why are they not saying who they are, etc.? Why did this book get so much popularity when it's technically an unknown author? This author just came out of nowhere. So a lot of controversy surrounding the book, but I loved it. Should you read both these books? Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed them. I believe Silver Elite's supposed to be a trilogy, so that's 2 trilogies. I think they're fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed both of them. I could see why people would not. Should you read them? Yes. Were they very similar? No, but there were similarities. So, I hope you enjoy. I enjoyed. I loved my time reading them. Hopefully I enjoy the rest of the books that both of those authors write.